Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is December the 4th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American court action. We are the sovereign living justices, and I am Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bay. All are in capitis diminutio nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Columbia. We are the Universal Moorish American Consulate in the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are executing and exercising the law by our sovereign capacity, which is the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3 living United States District 4 Columbia Court. And we are the sovereign fiduciaries, secured creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, possessors, and beneficiaries in this cause for action. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension and issue a universal creditor's bill for possession against all judgment debtors and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. Yes, we are getting stronger and stronger and stronger and faster and far more competent. We are the all more, and that means all Moors are stronger and faster, more competent, better, more unified. We're all essentially saying the same things, just in different ways. And with that being said, just a couple of announcements. We are having our 3-day fast coming up the 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's our full moon fast. The full moon is on the 7th, and so we'll start fasting on the 6th and 7th and 8th. However you choose to fast is up to you. And then from December 21st through January 31st, we're going to be doing a 40-day no land animals fast. So during that time, starting on the winter solstice of December 21st through the end of January, which will be 40 days, we will, as a nation, eat no animals that have walked on the land. That means no chicken, no pigs, lambs, cows, none of that. And we know that many Moors don't eat that already, but we want to include everyone in what we're doing because we are rising together. So again, we will eat no land animals, and feel free to harvest from the sea because both are ours. And we want to honor with this 40-day fast our peaceful return back to the land. We want to honor the animals that are on the land because they serve a purpose. And we want to ensure that we do it together. Now, one thing I do know is that the other nations of the earth are also doing the same thing. Many of them are not eating any food during that time period, specifically from the 1st of January to the 31st of January. And so we want to be one with them as always. And then we'll just do it in the way that we do it. So however you're led to fast, feel free to do so. Islam. And then no land animals from December 21st through January 31st. Islam. With that being said, I want to speak briefly about Justice Lamont Maurice L., one of our brothers at Maryland Territory, and this is actually for all Moors. First of all, we honor the work that all Moors are doing, to include Justice Lamont Maurice L. We honor everything that the Moors are doing at all the territories. We thank you for all the work, because it is uniting us. We are one. All of the Moors who've done POW demonstrations, you know what I'm talking about. And so, with that being said, I would like to offer some suggestions, and then in our nation, I'd like to place it on the table that we agree as one to do this. Now, those who attend these calls regularly, what I'm about to propose, to put on the table, we already know. But we want to put it out to all Moors to please study this suggestion, because it will assist in not having so much of that detainment stuff going on. Okay. With the detainment piece, let us be clear that those who are wearing costumes on our land, because that's what it is, those are not uniforms, those are not official positions, those that are acting in sheriff costumes that you might as well have gotten from Hollywood, because that's not lawful. Okay? If it's not us, it's not lawful. But it is strongly suggested that we all keep in mind that those are costumes. They ain't real, okay, if I may be blunt. And that we are to never attempt to hold a conversation with them without doing a court action first. We speak only from our courts when we're dealing with costumed actors and subjects. If they're not proclaimed Moors, we need to be doing court actions before we say anything. It is only by consular court action that treaties can be invoked and that the Constitution can be invoked. It has to be done by court action. Each and every time. Those are not anyone's buddies and friends. They're not our counterparts. They're actors in costume. They're not the law. We're the law. They're not the government. We're the government. So, and excuse my passion about that, but they don't have any authority unless we give them authority by not using our courts to speak. We are a living witness to that, and I won't go into that because I'm not bragging about that, but what I am saying is it worked repeatedly, to just remain humble and do the court actions. And then, any questions you want to ask, if you want to interrogate or whatever, I don't like the term interrogate because it infers some type of force, but you can question them, and it's not, we don't talk to them, we judge them, period. Right now, in where we are, Moors, this is Judgment Day. Make no mistake about it. Revelations in the Biblios Heliothek is now. It's now. That's why they keep running around talking about the end of the world. This is judgment time. And so we should have zero conversation with any costumed actors on this land without introducing ourselves properly by court action. Period. I don't care if it's in the grocery store. I don't care where you are. I don't care if it's on the side of the road. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Court action only and proper identification of the parties. Period. So I would like to propose that we agree as a nation to only time our mouth should be moving when we're talking to them is by court action, because guess what? The only time their mouths is moving is when they're lying. We could see that in the demonstrations that have been done where they said they just wanted to talk, but they don't speak competent English, so talking to them is warring. They don't speak competent English. They're not competent to speak to the heirs unless we are in court, standing on the bench, judging them, period. When I went to, I remember during quote unquote COVID, when I would go to the grocery store and they would have a costumed actor standing at the door. I would walk past and not say a word because my documentation is on the public record. And you know what they would do? Because they know, is they would say, "Hi, how you doing? We don't recognize you. The only thing we know is you're a subject and you're an actor, and I don't speak to actors unless I'm judging them." So, no, they don't just want to just have a word with you. A word? What kind of word? An incompetent one? So I won't continue on that road because I could go all day with that one. Because it's you know, yes, it does get me a little emotional when I see things like that, because we're stating on the public record, they're not your buddies. They're not your counterparts. They're not sheriffs. They're not police. They're not landlords. They're not greeters at the store. They're not even greeters at the store. They're not even greeters at the store. They're subjects and actors. So no, it's not a good morning. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. It's either that or I'm not going to say anything. Because see, even during that whole, quote unquote COVID situation, which is not done, by the way, the minute they say something about good morning, and if you say good morning back, guess what? You need a mask. Because see, you just acknowledged that they have some office or some authority, or it is time to mourn. No. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American court action. And no matter what they keep saying and talking and flapping their lips, they're still not speaking competent English, so we don't understand. We don't understand. Don't stand under what they say. Our court actions put everything back on the land. And you may have to do the court action repeatedly. We had to do it repeatedly. We did it for 10 days straight. But they couldn't come into the cell and hit people over the head and strip you naked and all of that. They couldn't do any of that. So do you know what the word conversation, see, the Moors know this, y'all know this, you know what the word conversation is all about. Conversation, that means the verse is against what's being said when they use that word. Con means against when they use it. Like a contract, that's against the sovereign status if you contract with them, with the actors. So I would like to just put it on the table right now that we agree as a nation that if any costumed actors are attempting to have a conversation with us, that we all agree to do court actions from start to finish, and I'll put the meeting in mute mode. Choose to state on the public record.
Islam, Travis near Abdulaziz Bay, Michigan Territory. Yay.
Islam.
Taking a vote?
Islam, Angelica Yvette Dobbs Bay, New York Territory. Yay.
Islam.
Kahusia, Jehuti, Ba'in, Will.i.am, Shu, Manhattan Territory. Yay.
Islam.
Yeah, like fucking old lady Aisha Ella is going to get up in somebody's face and do a court action.
You fucking ridiculous fucking woman. Jesus fucking Christ. Get a fucking life.
Hold on a minute, Morris.
Ow.
Learn what to fucking do.
Look, haters.
You think Aisha Ella, the old lady, is going to get up in some...
Goodbye. Go ahead, Morris. The hate. It's terrible.
Yes,
Islam. Rahim Allah Bay, New York Territory. Yeah.
Islam. Izine, Kabalani Bay. Yay.
Islam.
Khalifa
Territory. Yay.
Islam.
Aisha El Bay, Michigan Republic. Yay.
Islam.
Yeah, right, Aisha. Like you're fucking going to do that, you old lady.
Just a minute, Morris. Yeah, I saw you. Islam. We're at peace here in this meeting. Islam.
Marquette Bay, Virginia Territory.
Go ahead, Justice Markell, and then the noble from Khalifa Territory. Justice Markell, go ahead.
Marquette Bay, Virginia Territory.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam, Justice Thomas. Thank you.
Islam, Betty Way, Columbus. Yay.
Islam, Empress.
Islam, Dasha Bay, Jamaica Territory, and I'm going to add that I actually did a court action on one of us who is a 14th Amendment sleeping more, and I did that on him. So, yay.
Islam.
Yay.
Islam.
Islam.
Somali, California. Yay.
Islam, Empress.
Islam, Musa Jubei, Memphis, Tennessee. CA.
Islam.
Islam, Wine and Prince Bay, Canaan Land. Yeah.
Islam. Thank you, Empress.
Islam, AG, Nabi, Chance, Yale, Texas Territory.
Islam, Empress Nabi.
Islam, Consul Bay, UK Territory.
Yes, Justice Kansu. Islam.
Islam,
Harold Musa Bay, Memphis, Tennessee, ancient Memphis, Tennessee Republic. Yay.
Islam. Thank you, nobility.
Darius Barcel, South Cairo. Yay.
Thank you, nobility.
Islam, Empress Shea Marie Bay. Yay. From Michigan Territory.
Thank you, Empress.
Islam, that's a yay. UK Territory.
Islam, Sharif Bay, Khalifa Territory. Yay.
Islam. We heard you, Justice Kansu. Thank you, Justice Sharif. Islam.
Islam, Justice Malik Akil Bay, Illinois Territories. Yay.
Islam.
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 Maryland Territory. Yay.
Islam. Thank you, nobility. Islam.
Novo Roski L, Michigan Territory. Yay.
Islam. Thank you, nobility.
Islam, Rosetta L, Khalifa Territory. Yay.
Thank you, Empress. Islam.
Islam, Maurice Lloyd L, Alabama Territory. Yay.
Islam. Thank you, nobility.
Islam, Taja L, South Carolina Territory. Yay.
Thank you, Empress. Islam.
Islam.
Islam, Abina from Florida Territory. Yay.
Islam. Thank you, Justice Dumois, and thank you, Empress from Florida Territory. Islam.
Islam.
Empress, go ahead, and then Noble, go after the Empress, please.
And Denise Alval Bay, New Jersey Territory. Yay.
Islam. Thank you, Empress.
Willie Irving Smith Bay, Mississippi Territory. Yay.
Thank you, Nobility. Islam. Thank you, thank you.
Islam. Karima Kenesha LaShawnell Bay, Virginia Territory. Yay.
Islam. Thank you, Empress. Islam. I believe we have just about everyone who has voted. Hopefully we have Islam. So, again, costumed actors, court actions only. And this is what we do here. If a costumed actor comes to the door acting, we don't even open the door. We don't speak through the door. We don't do any of that. And then when we're out in the territory, we don't say anything, or we say do a court action if there's some attempt to injure or bring us into any, But we don't even get that anymore. None of that happens anymore because they already know what they're going to get from us. Islam, Justice Morpheus, I see in the chat. And we do see those in the chat who have, just one moment. We do see those in the chat who have, voted in the chat as well. Thank you for that. Yes, when costume actors speak, they're incompetent. So you can't believe anything coming out of their mouths, nothing. So there's no need to talk to them. And the only way to get anything out of them is to do a court action, ask some questions about identifying who they are, and then give them a command. And then say, this sovereign justice stands as law. And if they're still talking, you just do it again and do it again because it's a spell. So we just keep repeating it because it's a spell. That worked for us. I'm telling you, it worked for us like a charm. And so we know that there's some magic in that from our ancient ancestors, and there's also the law there. So with that being said, again, we honor the work that all Moors are doing. Moors, we got to get on the same page with that. We've got to get on the same page with that. We can't worry about wanting to be right. What we all know is that the treaty talks about our courts and that the consul shall decide. Okay? And so with the consul deciding, the consul can only decide when the consul is being the consul. Okay? So that's how we open our court. And listen, now the way that they talk all over now, and most of you have seen this, where Moors will go into those fake courts and they just talk. They seem like they're talking all over the Moor. You do your court action, period. Your court carries on, period. I mean, it worked so well for us because it was almost like we couldn't even hear them. We just looked and did the court actions, period. And they couldn't even breach that. They couldn't breach it.
I evicted some Moors. I personally evicted some Moors living in a domicile I own in Spokane just last week. They didn't pay their rent, so out they went. I got them bitches.
That man is sick as can be. Ooh, Father, touches.
Jealous is the right word. Jealous is the right word. But you know what? We love them.
Yeah.
Because
keep rolling your eyes in the back of your head, bitch. You might find a brain back there. Oh.
There we go. There we go. Listen, these are our meetings. We don't take the time to go to any meetings that subjects and actors are having because it doesn't concern us. So that should tell us right there that we're doing everything right. So let us continue. And I'm speaking to the Moors. I'm not speaking to subjects and actors. I'm talking to the Moors. And so with that being said, Moors, we don't have anything to say to them except do a court action and hit the boot button, period. Okay. So with that being said, let's move on to the banking, because see, this is again more of the same of why they cut up the way they do. With regard to the
banking, is a la Claus going to give all your little children a fresh, shiny new ring?
I'm sorry. Was someone saying something? I guess not. So, with regard to the banking system belongs to the Moors. But even where Moors are concerned, let me say this:
everybody give Pauline 10% of your fiat.
It doesn't matter, Moors, how long we've been doing this work. We all must terminate corporate contracts. We have to. Doesn't matter how long we've been doing this, all Moors must terminate them and keep them terminated. Keep them terminated. Keeping them terminated means if you think that you might have stepped over a little bit and in your demonstrating, you feel like you may have said something that caused them to think there might be a contract, just state out of your mouth, I hereby terminate.
Look at the chat. Pauline hasn't terminated all.
You just say, you state for the record, I hereby terminate all corporate contracts. We post it on social media every now and then. We'll post that statement on social media to ensure that we're staying uncorrupt throughout this process. So, just a moment. So, it doesn't matter who we are. We have to terminate all corporate contracts with them. We gave the command to stop shuffling debt around on our land. So it's only right that the dead corporate fiat accounts be confiscated. Now, what's the difference between a dead corporate fiat account and a sovereign living account? The paperwork and who's managing or governing it. That's the difference. They seem like they look the same, just like the all caps. It looks similar. It looks exactly like a nom de guerre. But it's not a nom de guerre because we govern it. It's governed by the living. And that which issues from us is living, not dead. Okay? So the subject actors are enacting their move to the crypt. Make no mistake about it, there's no accident in it being called crypto. By virtual debt format called a CBDC, digital currency debt system, which we are not participating in. So what are they doing? Again, they're getting out of our buildings and moving into a virtual non-existence, going back where they came from. And think about this, Moors. When they put something like a CBDC, a central, quote unquote, central bank digital currency is what they're calling it. When they do anything like that, then who are the people going to call when they have a problem with the system? Who are they going to call? They ain't going to be able to go down the street to no bank and deal with it. They're not going to be able to do any of that. So it behooves each and all of us to go ahead and do just one moment. Let me see if boy, y'all use a lot of energy. Obviously, we are doing everything right. Obviously, it is so obvious. My word, it is obvious that we are doing exactly what we should be doing, because their little efforts are really, they're giving us a lot of energy, and we don't even need their energy in terms of putting stuff in the chat repeatedly and coming into the meetings. They're giving us a lot of energy, and we don't even need their energy. Islam. So with that being said, banking, all they're doing is moving out of the way. That's it, moving out of the way so that we can continue to move forward and do the things that we're doing. Okay. Number one. With regard to the subjects in the chat, and let me just go back and mention this really quick. We are not mesmerized or distracted or hypnotized by the acting and the costumes of the subjects. Okay. Yes, we watch a few videos that the subjects do. You know, they're good actors. But we're not mesmerized and hypnotized by any of that. We can shut that off today and it won't even bother us. And so if you know that you cannot watch that stuff without believing what they say, instead of seeing that as an example of what to do or what not to do or what needs to be uncorrupted, then don't watch it. Don't watch them. You know, we have Moors that put things on our pages and things like that, and, you know, talking about what quote unquote President Joe Biden is doing. And I'm like, who the heck is that? Who are you even talking about? Who is that? I don't know that person. Because that's not in our customs and usage on our land. So, you know, if you can't watch it without believing what you're seeing, because if their lips are moving, they're lying, then don't watch it. And stay focused on nation building, because when we remove something out of the way, we have to put something in there that's good. That's uncorrupt. You know what, Justice Sharif, that is correct. He says in the chat, the trolls remind him of demonstrators marching all over the place, however ineffective. I agree. It hadn't stopped a thing. So with that being stated, let's move forward. We spoke a little bit about this past Friday, our Grand Sheikh Taj was speaking at House of Reawakening Minds, and we just so honor and love our Grand Sheikh and as well Empress Dr. Nyala Gilliam. We love them both very much, and we greatly appreciate the work that they're doing. We did see our Grand Sheikh hold up a hypothecated subrogated Maryland charter, and he pointed out that it was, you know, about it being written by frauds, and we agree. We 100% agree. And we just want to say that, you know, when our teachers, and it was written in ancient, not ancient English, but Old English. And Old English is the hypothecation of our ancient English. Let us make that clear. We were writing in ancient English before we even invented them. And then they came and said, oh, let us mimic them and call it Old English. And so he spoke the absolute truth, as always. He is a truth teller, period. And so when we see our teachers holding those types of documents up, Moors, we can be very, very proud that we have rewritten Justice Morpheus, we want to thank Justice Morpheus for rewriting and posting that in its proper status and standing, that charter and the Maryland Constitution. Posting that on the public record and putting it in its proper place by the Moors, by the Moorish government. Really, I saw that as an affirmation of the fact that we need to reconstruct everything. This is the reconstruction period for us as well. Reconstruct, renew, revive, renaissance. We know, and this is how we know too, that rewriting everything and reconstructing everything, reconstructing all the forms, reconstructing all that, we know that that is the correct thing to do, because we also know that when you would go to the Vatican and see these paintings and, you know, quote unquote Michelangelo's paintings and Leonardo da Vinci's work, we know that all they did was reconstruct what we did initially. All of those paintings, the faces were brown, like us. They looked like us. And they just said, let's get some pale paint and paint these black, because see, black means pale. And so they reconstructed. And all we're doing is saying, we got this. We'll reconstruct everything and put it back in its proper place. Because that way it originates with us, and then we're the author or the authority of it. It's original, not a copy. It's original. And we're the only nation we're the only people that can see something and then reconstruct it, and ours be the original and that one be a fake, phony copy. In that order. So we want to send high honors to our Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey, who is our Consular General for the Moorish National Republic Federal Government and the Moorish American Consulate. And we thank him for just the greatness of the teachings. We want him to know that we hear. We can hear you. And that the things that he's been showing, we just look at it and we say, okay, let's reconstruct that and state it properly. Take ownership of it. Because no one can put something on a public record and then and if they're not us, it doesn't apply to us. So, you know, we're grateful for the teaching. Having said that, regarding our bond program, our bonds, unlike the previous, our bonds are evidence of credit, not evidence of debt. Why? Because anything coming from us is credit. Anything we originate is credit. Okay? Because at the maturity date, 100% of the principal is either returned to the holder or reinvested based on the will of the holder. So we get to determine what happens with our savings, because that's really what this is. It's a savings bond program. Each and every exchange is an Article 3 court action that nationalizes the exchange regardless of where it comes from. Participants in our National Treasury Bond Program will automatically receive original United States bond creditor documentation stamped and sealed by an original indigenous justice that coincides with our fiduciary documentation concerning all capitalized instruments. An additional matching national bond will also be created for the government records for each bond purchase. The bond issuer is always the creditor in fact. What does that mean? Because we all are issuing these bonds, we are all the creditors, which means that we are actually manifesting what we've been stating all along, that we are the creditors to all the nations at earth. We are the first original indigenous ancient sovereign nation to do so in this era. So the bonds are coming from all of us. We're all going to be supporting our own bonds program, and then others will do the same. So, and then we're going to publish, every so often we'll publish where we are with the bond program. The bond program will begin on January 1st. And over the next few days, and just let me know what you think about all of this with regard to how we proceed, because we're all proceeding together. Who is issuing the bonds? We all are issuing the bonds to ourselves and all others. We are manifesting the statement that we have made previously, that we are the creditors to all the nations that are. How does that indicate that we're the creditors? Because those are creditor instruments and not debt instruments. So one of the things that I was thinking about with regard to the issuing of the bond program is, of course, we don't accept fiat at all. We will never accept fiat, because that's not something that we do. We only accept bank credits, and a bank credit is the ones and zeros that transfer back and forth via either electronic funds transfers or Cash App or things like that, applications like that. So on leading up to January 1st, this is what I was just looking at in terms of issuing the bonds, that we take in the electronic funds, the sovereign credits, via Cash App first. Let's just start there. And with each one, you can add a message or something to that, and the message will be the appellation, the mailing location, so that we can mail the bond to you, and let's see, and an email address. So the appellation, the sovereign-born appellation, the sovereign security number, and the mailing location, and an email. So those 4 things can be added to the movement of the sovereign credits. Let me just make sure that I don't forget anything. Mailing location, email, sovereign security number. So what do you think about that for the federal bonds process, for the federal bonding process? And I believe everyone you can unmute. And it is to get our bank open. We have, and as you all know, we have already done a termination of all corporate contracts on the public record with regard to the banking accounts, and we showed you how to upload and do that for your bank accounts as well. So with that being stated, that is how the program is going to go, and you can either I'm saying you, but we can do a monthly issuance if you choose a monthly issuance, or we can do a one-time issuance. It's just however you choose to do so.
Yeah, baby.
However you choose to do so. So that is what I'm seeing right now as a way to do the program. And if there are no objections or any if you can see another way to do it, let us know here on the public record. And again, this is to get our bank open.
Islam. Well, I was just sitting here knowing that as Moors, we always go bigger, because that's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the amounts, I said, so what comes after a trillion? And then we Googled it, and the highest number is decillion, DECILLION. And so I was like, wow, that's going to be a whole lot of zeros and a whole lot of math.
Yeah, it is. Well, with the bank credits, the bank credits, Moors can do anything from 5 bank credits to however much more they want to do. If they want to do 5 sovereign credits per month, then do 5 sovereign credits per month. If you want to do 30 or 50 sovereign credits per month, your bond will be written out that way. And then what we do is when the bond matures, what you do is you state which bond you want. There'll be 5-year bonds, 10-year bonds, and 30-year bonds. Those are the ones that we can look at and see and say, okay, this is how to issue this. And then you just begin working towards transferring the sovereign credits for those bonds. And that way, we get our bank going. See, what we didn't know, and this is something that I've been looking at this for a while. What we did not know, Moors, is that when people come here from other places, let's just use the Asians, for example. When the Asians come here from China, they do the same thing that we're doing right now. They all come together and agree that they're going to send their bank credits so that they can get little China, little Saigon, little Vietnam, little Japan going. But it always starts with a bank with them. And then they make it so that they can send things back and forth to wherever they're from using their own bank. And so there's no reason why we can't do this. I've seen, blacks, quote unquote, and I'm not putting them down in any way. They don't know that they're not black. But I've seen blacks either open banks or attempt to open banks. And some will get the bank open and it won't stay open for long. Not at all. Why? Because of the status. The status is wrong. We cannot open banks as blacks and expect it to flourish, because that's not who we really are. That's fraud. It's fraud. And so, I'm going to be the first one giving a tenth of everything that comes in for me every month to getting our bank open, because who else is going to do it? And so everyone who comes here does that. They gather together And then I've noticed with the ones from, those places, the Asians, and we thank them for giving us a great example, that they place one of their own in all the key places where banking and commerce is concerned. And then they look at the way it's been done and they follow it the way that it needs to be done. So they do all the quote-unquote legalities. And that is what we're doing as well, but we're not doing it under a dead United States corporation company. We're doing it by our own sovereign status because that's who we are. And so when they come here, and then they'll say, okay, we're all going to need cars, so let's put one of our own at least as the automobile liaison at the bank, so that no matter where they're purchasing their conveyances from, it's going through their bank. We can do the same thing because look at where our bank credits have been going in the past. And it doesn't take much. It just takes us deciding that this is what we want to do. Not everybody has to do $100 a month. You can do $5 a month. You can do 10, 20, 40, 50 sovereign credits per month. And again, we don't accept fiat. So when we say dollars, we mean bank credit. And one thing I do know is that, and we'll publish how it goes. And again, this is our first time doing something like this, where we're putting our bank credits where our mouth is in terms of us being the creditors to all the nations at earth. So we'll just take it a day at a time. That's all we're going to do is walk through it, take it a day at a time, do the work, and move forward. And we voted on it. We all agree. So let's just move forward again, one day at a time. And if you don't have anything that you can put forth toward the bonding program, send the energy. Continue to demonstrate your sovereign status. Keep doing your demonstrations. Keep sending your documents out and stay with us. Keep coming on. Keep voting. Stay with us while we go through this process. And I know in my knower that our ancestors are going to bless the process. I know that already. I know that. All we have to do is be willing to walk through it. Let it be what it is. If people who barely understood English can come here and do it, we can certainly do it. We can certainly do it. Islam nobility.
I agree. It's just that a few years ago, I was in a private mansion where what you just indicated is right on, because the Asian was there and invited several of us to attend, and I personally participated. I guess it lasted for about a year and a half, but we did well. So it
they
works.
What you're saying
exactly.
All there.
Oh, definitely. I see the picture now.
Yeah.
I yield.
Yeah, they had to have Moors there. All of them had at least one Moor when they started their process of putting their bank credits together so that they can produce their own instruments and their own everything. And we're the only bank that can actually produce and print gold-backed money. Okay. Islam, there's a noble. Okay, Islam. We're the only ones who can actually produce the gold-backed money from our banking. Justice Akil, the vote was about us agreeing. Justice Akil, he's asking, he missed the vote today. And I'll just state briefly that we all agreed that whenever dealing with costumes, subjects, and actors, costumed subjects and actors wearing costumes that say sheriff, or costumes that say police, or costumes that say clerk or whatever, that we will only speak to them by way of court action. And we will not attempt to hold conversations with them without doing the court act, properly introducing ourselves by court action. We state that we are the law, we got to be it. And that's what the vote was. We agreed as a nation and as the state that anytime we speak, anytime, doesn't matter where we are, that we are going to use court action language only to speak to them, because we can see Islam. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like to kill Kanimbi Easley L from the Philadelphia territory. I would like to put my vote in for that.
Islam. Because see, Moors, we can see that, our brothers had their fezzes on and everything, flags flying. And we honor that. So we want to go ahead and take that to the next level. They did all the right things with regard to their presentment. They presented themselves properly and everything, but we cannot try to hold conversations with those that are not competent. They don't speak the same English. It's an incompetent animal husbandry dialect. Let's just put that on the public record. That's what it is.
How can we never talk about little Raisinette's Nissan Altima anymore, Pauline? Did Raisinette get her?
Animal husbandry dialect. That's why we don't talk to them. And we don't allow them.
That's funny, Pauline. You were just talking to me.
Husbandry dialect. Animal husbandry. And we don't talk to them. We speak to each other like we're doing now. So, and of course they don't want us to get this out here. Of course they don't, and they don't want us to do what we do.
Why would you raise your voice if you're not talking to me, Paul?
They don't want us to do this because it's the right thing to do. Now, if anybody can pull some resources together, we can do it. So, and then we will be issuing a bond out to each and all who, even if it's a $5 per month bond, we'll be issuing bonds out to everyone. So that way, and then we're going to publish on the public record. There'll be a chart on the public record that shows who got the bond. Just like when you go to the U.S. Treasury Direct quote unquote website, and you can put in your social and see that you put in their social and see what bonds are out there, and the date of them and the amounts. We're going to do the same thing where you'll be able to. It'll just be like Google Sheets with everyone, and then the amount we have that and the amount that we've put. It'll be like Google Sheets. Islam, just as I think.
Yes. Empress Light, are you going to approach it from simple interest or compounded interest against the bonds?
It'll be simple interest to start with. It'll be simple interest to start with.
Great. I yield.
Likely start with either 2 or 3% interest per annum. Between 2 and 3% interest per annum. Possibly. Most likely it'll be. Well, what do you think, Justice Azim? What do you all think? How much do you want to get back on your on your savings? What is an equitable amount? It adds up pretty quickly. Islam nobility.
I think that's fair in terms of initially getting things running.
3%. Is that what
Yes,
you're saying?
I feel that's, yes. I think that's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
For starters, yes.
Islam. There was another noble. Mm-hmm.
I was saying some may have issues with usury at all. Should we vote on that?
So I thought about that, and this would not be considered usury. Number one, because it's coming back to you. And that's not even number one. That's like number 2, 3, or 4. Number one is not on the actual gold bars. So there's no interest on gold bars or gold exchanges. And that's the purpose of a bond program. It's actually the bond paper itself. It's the document itself that the interest is being added to. The value of the document.
Islam.
Correct.
Islam, I sit corrected.
Oh, Islam. Thank you, nobility, for that. I thought that through too, and the ancestors did give me the go ahead on that in terms of if we were giving gold coins, that would be different. We can't do interest on gold coins and things like that. They are face value, and then also the value of the gold that's in them. Islam Empress. Thank you, nobility, for that.
Islam. It would be also appreciation, was because things appreciate that we are, and so when you look up the word appreciation, it from my understanding, it means to increase in value. One of the definitions, and so also, Kausi and I was having a conversation about why you keep mentioning just 5 sovereign credits for the bonds and such, and I said, well, because it's 10%, which is our tithes, and then also I said it's for those who overstand to know that we are everything, and everything that we are, we have. So if you overstand that you are innumerable wealth, you will know you can create a bond for innumerous wealth. Hence the reason why I stated earlier, what's beyond trillion goes all the way up to the million. And that's why I said what I said earlier, because we go big or go bigger. Islam.
Well, I said, and thank you for that, Empress. I stated 5 sovereign credits per month because we want everyone to participate. And not everyone can, and like we stated, not everyone has 1,000 sovereign credits in the bank to move back and forth. Because the sovereign credits are actual bank credits. So it will come via Cash App or electronic funds transfer to the Treasury, and then a bond will be issued based on what you send to the Treasury. And this is an honors system in terms of, if you say that you want a $100 bond and you want to send $10 sovereign credits per month, then we're going to issue the bond according to what is, like when you send in the sovereign credits, then the bond will follow. So however you get to state that. And so I could have said $1,000 a month. I could have said 1,000 sovereign credits a month. I could have said that. Why? Some will do that, though. Some are going to do that, and some are going to do a lot more than that. Because we do have, and let me just make this clear, we do have other nations that are interested in what we're doing. They want to be a part of what we're doing. And we're going to, that is absolutely going to happen. And some of them may come together and put 1 million sovereign credits in. Okay.
Yeah.
We still have to get our bank open. You know,
and
but us, we as the Moors, we have to, we cannot depend on others. We actually have to get this going. We have to do it, just like we've been doing everything else.
Islam.
We have to start somewhere. Islam Empress, I yield.
Oh, sorry, no problem. The DeLorean also is our national currency, and that is accepted also for the bonds too, right?
No, not and I can't say no, because the bonding program is to get the DeLorean printed. Our bank has to print DeLorean. So the DeLorean that you print out is not, that was to get everyone accustomed to printing their own money, because we have to, because we're going to have banks everywhere. That's what DeLorean is all about. And that is our national currency. This is where we're only accepting bank credits and gold for what we're doing for the bonds. Bank credits and gold for the bonds. Okay? And then when our bank is open, we're going to print DeLorean from the bank that's infused like we know it should be, and or gold coins. And it's and gold coins, because it's not and or gold coins, because we have to have our paper money as well. So this is to get all of that going. We have to start somewhere, and we might as well start with each other. You know.
Okay.
So the bond program will not be where I can print out $1 trillion in DeLorean here and then say I want $1 trillion bond, because that's not how it's going to work. This particular part of our banking process and our banking system is going to be where bank credits or gold. So, for example, when we started the United States Corporation Company, our creditor one, I put all the gold and the silver that I have in the inventory to start it. And then plus future sea salt production, plus the natural diamonds that I had. All of that went into the Treasury for that, because I said we got to start somewhere. So when you go back and look at that video, you will see where the United States Corporation Company that we started, the creditor to the debtor, because we're just rebutting the debt, had to start with natural resources and natural things that come from us. That's Islam. In our possession. Islam.
We must have those reserves for the bank at all times.
Yes. Yes. And the bank credits will be, and the bond program and the bank credits and the gold, if there's gold received, and I know there will be the reserves, and then we'll go ahead and start, issuing to the merchants. And again, this is to get the merchants going, because there are most of you and most of us are Moorish merchants. And we have to we want to be issuing our DeLorean when we're doing our Moorish business, infused with gold, etc. Now, do I know how long it's going to take? I don't know at this moment how long it's going to take. I'm looking at that process, and we're all looking at that process together, as far as because we can all speak at any time about the process. So I don't know how long it's going to take for us to go from the bond program to the opening of the bank, but I'm going to say that once we reach a certain amount, and that's why I didn't put a time limit on it, because if we get to a certain amount, in the bond a certain amount of bank credit in the bond program before we reach it. Like if I say it's going to take a year, if I said that, but we got to the amount of bank credits before that time period, then we will be opening early. What we're doing now, really, this is an exercise in trusting one another. That's really what this is. It's an exercise in trusting one another.
It must suck to be a Moor because you can't get anything you command for.
And doing the whole process, you know. We're just doing what everyone else modeled for us. So, and again, we're taking it a step at a time. We're looking at the bonding process and seeing how they were issued. It's very simple. Yes, the meeting can be unlocked, Empress. Just one. It's unlocked, Empress. Whoever the more is that wants to come in can come in. So on January 1st, we will start accepting the bonds, the bank credits for the bonding process, and we'll begin issuing bonds as of January 1st. And the reason we chose January 1st is because we know that this is the rise of the Red House. We know that. Is there a specific goal amount? No, we're gonna do like they did, like our ancestors did in the ancient Sibylline prophecies. They just said, okay, we'll just take in what comes into the temple until we say, okay, stop giving. Because when our ancestors did this in the ancient writings, and you can look in the Bibliotext, where the people gave and gave and gave and gave until our ancestors had to say, okay, please stop giving, don't give anymore, please, because we have plenty. So we're just going to do it the way they did it, accept what comes in and go from there. And then the Moorish merchants, get your business proposals and all of that, get those things done, so that we can prepare. And again, we're not looking at those things right now. Right now we want to get this part to where we open up our bank so that we can serve the nations. Islam, Empress.
I don't know if you settled on the other more.
Hold on for just a moment, Empress. There's an echo, Empress. Hold on just a moment.
That's because
just a moment.
Hold
just a moment.
You have to get evicted. Bye, IE.
Just a moment.
Better.
One moment, Empress. Let me do one or two other things here. Just a little bit of cleaning up here. Just a moment.
Wherever they rest.
Let me clean up just a little bit.
Hey, Aisha, I hope you know that this is a cult.
Just one moment. Okay, all right, Empress Aisha, go ahead. I believe we got all the riffraff.
I was going to suggest 7% on the bond, but as I thought about it, what about 5%? I just want to put that on the table.
Are we willing to do the work? Because we got to do the work too. See, the interest is going to come from the commerce.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm saying, with this being our first effort, that is aggressive interest rate. 5% is aggressive.
Okay.
And the reason I'm stating what I'm stating is because I already know we have to do the work so that the returns come in to the people.
That's
and
good.
Islam. So,
So what you're saying is that the investment into the bond got to come in from the members, from the Moors.
Yes. The Moors first should be the first ones, because we got to get our bank open. We have to get this is the same thing that was being done in 1906 with the Act of Algeciras, where the Sultan was attempting to get the bank open, but then there was some subrogation and some switching up of some things that happened. And
it's Donna. And
you can read the Act of Algeciras, 1906, and see what happened there, where the Sharifian Bank was supposed to open, and then the next thing you know, 1913 happened, and the supposed Federal Reserve Act happened.
Okay.
And so we have done the termination of all corporate contracts on the bank accounts, and then we told them, the foreigners, to stop. Don't be shuffling those green things around on this landmass, because that's not money. And so now we're putting something in the place of, by way of the banks.
Okay.
So I would say this to you, Empress, and to all the Moors: let the same thing that brought this about in the first place. Let the ancestral energies lead you on however you choose to contribute to your nation. This is no different from anything else that we have said, stated, and put on the public record. No different. Let the ancestral energies lead you, and if they don't say anything, do not contribute. If the ancestors don't lead you to do it, don't do it. And the reason I state that is because if you do it outside of the ancestors telling you to do it, then the wrong energy is going to be put on what you're doing. And then you'll be thinking that there's something there that's not there. There'll be some obligation in your mind that's created, because fiat energy is an energy that seeks to not only obligate but bind.
Okay.
Whereas this is a freedom situation. So and that's generally to all Moors is, please let the ancestors lead you, because we don't even want anyone to participate in this program if the ancestors are not leading you to do it. Please don't. And those that are led by the ancestral energies within you to participate, do so.
Islam.
So we can get our bank. Islam nobility.
Will we be able to?
This is Izim again.
Hold on, Justice Empress Aisha, Justice Izim has a question really quickly, and then we'll come back to you, Empress, in just a moment.
Yes, I just want to make a brief comment. Shortly after World War II, the Moorish soldiers basically couldn't do business throughout. It was in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. So they couldn't go and freely spend their money where they wanted to. So what happened is a few Moors opened a bank in Little Rock, Arkansas, and got the word out to the locals. And they lined up 2 blocks from the bank, and they withdrew all their funds from the Albion's banks,
Mm-hmm.
and deposited the money into the Moorish Bank. The first Moorish Bank in Little Rock, Arkansas, became the largest bank in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Of course.
Shortly after World War II.
Of course.
It was thriving, yes. And the main boulevard was 9th Street in Little Rock, Arkansas. They opened up a lot of mercantile operations along the boulevard. They had a big ballroom. All the big-name entertainers came and performed. But what happened is they came up with a way to kill it by establishing urban renewal. Basically, they had this eminent domain situation where they fraudulently rezoned 9th Street as being part of the new interstate that was going to come through the city, and found out that after they finally decided to break ground to build the interstate, it was only 300 feet away from 9th Street. And it had all of the Moors believing that they was going to come through 9th Street and destroy all the commercial activity along the boulevard. People from different cities all around, 300 and 400 miles, coming into 9th Street to entertain, just basically do commercial activity among themselves. And
that's why we can't listen to them.
Staged to kill it. Yeah, they killed it. And that took on a domino effect throughout all the cities throughout America. The so-called urban renewal rezoning program.
See, and that rezoning wasn't doing anything but corporatizing the maps. That's all it was doing. And if we and that's the thing. Back then, if the Moors agreed that was not the land, but that it was a corporate street, then they can tax them and do all of this other crazy stuff. That's why we had to come out of that system. It's corporate. It's dead. It doesn't even exist. But if we agree to it, they're going to move through. But they don't move through. They're done. And, again, when we don't contract with them, then none of that stuff applies. And that's what I was stating about even any conversation or anything, any documentation in paperwork, it all comes from our courts. And we don't even send paperwork anywhere unless it's a court action. Period. When we did the United States Corporation Company, the creditor United States Corporation Company, that went as a court action and notification. No, we're not filling out anyone's forms. We do what we want to do on our land, and then we look at the process and make sure that the process is what it should be, because that's what this is. This is us re-familiarizing ourselves and remembering the processes. So that was the time. What you just talked about, Justice Azine, was the time when the final Moors was just going to sleep.
Yes.
That is what supposedly, quote unquote, World War II was all about, was exacting capitalism onto the Moors, and the Moors either consenting to the capitalism or something of that nature. We know better than that today, though. Empress Aisha.
Islam. I just want to make a comment that in one day they had accounts receivable at the bank in excess of $200,000 from the collective Moors. I yield.
And see, it depends on if the Moors felt that there was some obligation to a debtor system. If they accept any of the debt. If you see, that's the thing, Moors. If previously we had accepted even $1 in debt, they can put all of it on us. That's why we rebutted all of it and terminated all corporate contracts, because a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. That's in the bibliotext. They know that. So we just keep that leaven out. And that's that. And to our credit, a couple of our documents making its way into that fake system leavened and imploded the whole thing. It didn't take 8 billion of us. It didn't take that. It took a few of us competently sending documentation out there and putting it on the public record and demonstrating who we are. That's all it took. That's all it took. A little leavened it the whole lump. Period. And now we're doing it. We're going to continue to do it. Empress Aisha, were you going to state something else, Empress?
You asked would we be able to use email to do investment also. It's just going to be Cash App.
I know there's a way to do email. Send sovereign credits through email. Someone did that, and I didn't even know we could do it that way. I think, but I think Cash App works that way too.
Yes, Islam. You're right. You can do it by way of Cash App, but you have to have your some ties with some fake bank in order to make.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Successful. Well,
who's the bank? No, Billy. Come on now.
We're the bank. But that's true.
And then you terminate, and see, I just love it when this comes up because, again, when you terminate all corporate contracts with the fakes, the system is standing there. The system is there. It's our system. These are our airways. But we have to make sure that we're the ones governing what we're doing.
Okay, with that,
not theirs. Islam Empress.
With that said, then, would you be able to talk the termination of contracts into the system by sound?
Of course. It is. Listen, Empress. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God from the very beginning. It was spoken first. Yes. We state, let there be, and there is. Islam, Empress Shasha.
Shasha, it's me. So I have a question regarding Cash App. It's not something I've used, but does it work sort of like a PayPal or something like that?
It does.
And is Cash App something, has it been leaned? I mean...
It has.
Okay.
We have leaned and terminated all corporate contracts, but I would highly suggest that all Moors make sure that you have a lien and a termination of corporate contracts on the public record where banking is concerned, period.
Yeah, I do have, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then should we, I know it's been lean, but should we also lean Cash App, or is that not necessary?
I would suggest that you do.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Even, let's just say, for example, it won't matter where the exchange comes from, because we're going to nationalize it anyway, just because our account is nationalized. And then when we issue the bond, the capitalism will be our capitalism that's being issued.
Correct.
And it's coming from all of us.
Yeah.
So we have to keep that in mind too as we go through this process, that this is a process that we're all doing. Yes, we're going to be issuing everything from here, and we're going to be receiving the credits here, but this is all of us doing this so that we can get our banking open.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen, more sleeping Moors, such as, I believe, Dr. Umar Johnson was trying to get a bank open, and, Farrakhan at one point was trying to get a bank open, and all of that. And, that system was not made for that.
Are they really sleeping, though? I mean, that's a question I do have with regard to the ones that you even mentioned, because they know Wawan. So, are you being diplomatic?
I am.
Okay, fabulous, because that was what I was thinking.
I am. Yeah.
I yield.
We are the government, and so we're diplomatic with the things we say. I'm so glad you saw through that, though.
I mean, really, I'm working on my diplomacy.
Yes, diplomacy is in the interest of peace, Empress. We have to do it.
No, but I just wanted to ask that out loud on the record, because
I appreciate that you did, and this is going on the public record.
Absolutely. All right, I yield.
Yes, we honor the works that all have done, including our subjects and the actors and all of that. We honor the actors by doing a court action on them.
Right.
To me, that's honor. And you have the honor of being in subject status. So diplomacy is good. We use it all the time. We're actually demonstrating diplomacy in everything that we do.
I'm him again. I'm looking for some 15-year-old boy.
Hold on for just a moment. Thank you, Morris, for holding for just a moment, while we again exercise diplomacy. So we will put, probably next week, we will put the information as to where the offerings, the tithes, whatever you want to call it. Some people have an aversion to the term tithes. I had an aversion to the term tithes until now, because it's for us. It's for us, and for our heirs, and for their heirs, and their heirs, and their heirs. I mean, think about it. We'll be able to say that we opened a constitutionally sound bank. So, and I know our ancestors are going to honor the work, because they always do. I thought about, as I was thinking this through again this morning, because I wake up with this on my mind, and I go to sleep with it on my mind, and maybe those are not the right terms to use. But as I was thinking about it this morning, this AM, I thought about how our ancestors, the things that they went through in order to shut everything down, they had to agree. Like just as Azim pointed out, after World War II, quote unquote, they had to agree that, that they would go to sleep. And now this is our time, and this is how I know what we're doing is going to work. It's going to be successful, because it's time. There's never been a better time for us to do what we're doing now. This is the time for it. According to the law, we've already, shown where this whole process comes from, including what our Prophet Noble Drew Ali stated. And we know this is the right time. These things are things that, it could have been done by the temples previously. It could have been. But it wasn't, because we have the opportunity and the joy of doing it. So I'm saying, let's do it. And, I'm excited for us. I'm excited for us. We deserve our own bank. I mean, think about what that means. All the hard work that our teachers have put in, all the hard work that each of us have done, the POW demonstrations, all of that. Speaking of which, let me state that if there are any Moors that you want to remove from a POW situation at your territory, you know you can issue a bond for them. Empress Shasha, that document that you sent me the other day, do you have a link that you can put in the chat so the Moors can read that? It's about the bonds. It's about bonds and what they do.
I had it on my computer, and I'm
okay.
not sure, but I can put it in the. You want me to put it in the chat?
If you could. If not, I'll just upload it to my Google Drive and put the link in the chat.
I'm gonna look for it right now
because that gave me even more insight on jail bonds, which are different from this process that we're doing. But Morris, let me show you something too. Empress Shasha, if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. While I pull up.
Okay, I'm looking for it. So. Mock court, wasn't it? Mock how to.
Yeah, it was a mock court document that the hybrids did. But more, one of the other someone that I know sent me some documentation because they were doing some processes with one of the subjects, and it was supposed to be a bonding process, and they pulled up this in their documentation. They had signed and sent in this particular form it's called a GSA Payment Bond Form 25A. And when I looked at the form, I had to literally ask them, have they read what they signed and sent in? Because I could not believe what I was reading. That people voluntarily signed these things trying to get something from a fake treasury by way of a bond. So this document that's on the screen, Morris, you can see what document this is. It's called Payment Bond, and you can look at this. This is the most hypothecated document. It is absolutely just, I could not believe people actually filled this out. But the reason I'm bringing it up is to state that we reconstruct everything, you know, even with the bonding process. But this is what those that were doing something with, quote unquote, the subject previously known as Patrick Devine. Some of you may be familiar with that subject. And he had people filling these forms out. And when I saw it, I couldn't believe that anyone would fill it out, because it is literally a penitentiary bond that people are volunteering to pay. So, Moors, if any of you have followed his processes, you better reconstruct that stuff, because they left it like it is on the screen. It says here, penal sum of bond. Penal sum. A penitentiary, penal means crime. It means, in fact, let me just look the word penal up. It means punishment. That's what penal means. And so he had people filling these things out, and then look what it says here. Obligation. It says they, claiming to be principals and sureties, were firmly bound to the United States of America, which is a debtor, herein after called the government, which is a lie, in the above penal sum, in the above punishment sum. It says, for payment of the punishment sum, They bind themselves, their heirs, executors, administrators, successors, jointly and severally. Jointly and severally means individually and as a group. It says, however, where the sureties are corporations acting as co-sureties, they, the sureties, bind themselves in such sum jointly and severally, as well as severally, only for the purpose of allowing a joint action or actions against any or all of them. And this is more why we say you must terminate all corporate contracts, because anyone trying to save a contract because they think they're saving a benefit, the benefit is yours because you're the creditor, not because of the contract. Okay? And even one contract would be jointly and severally binding so that all the debt happens. Okay? For all other purposes, each surety binds itself, and they were even calling themselves it instead of he and she, and they were saying we're the living man and woman. No, you signed something that said binds itself jointly and severally with the principal for the payment of the sum shown above, opposite the name of the surety. If no limit is indicated, the limit of liability is the full amount of the penal sum, of the punishment sum. You're agreeing to be a debtor. Not only that, both principal and surety are surety. This document is as incompetent as those Bureau for Fiscal Services. Thank you, Empress. She put in the chat the document, another document. Morris, please take the time to read it. It's a 16-page document written by the subjects, and it expands on bonds. But again, look at it knowing that it is hypothecated, okay, and subrogated. So, but it's got some good information in it that we can uncorrupt. Okay. And then here on this document, and this is the last thing that I'll point out about this document, the above obligation is void if the principal promptly makes payment to all persons having a direct relationship with the principal. And the being that sent the document to me had their name in here as the principal, saying that they are going to pay. And they put a sum of like 100 million in here. 100 million in here as the penal sum of a bond, and actually sent this in to the subjects in the office of IRS. I was like, wow, that is wow. I just had to ask them, did you even read the document? Did you even read it? Do you know what you're doing? That's why we, reconstruction all day, every day. I mean, this document refers to USC codes right up here, 44 USC 3507. But if you don't read it, you'll think that they're actually giving you some benefit. It says this form for the protection of persons of supplying labor and material is used when a payment bond is required under 40 USC 31, Chapter 31, Subchapter 3 bonds. So we are going to study this USC code here, but no way would we ever put this kind of thing here on the public record without complete reconstruction of it. I just could not believe what I was seeing. See, whenever we do bonds, our bonds would not say penal sum, it would say creditor sum of bond. This is how we would reconstruct this form and then publish it ourselves. Okay? And people would never be sureties. It would be materials that's the surety, or the bond itself being the surety, never the people. You know, but again, reconstruction, Islam. So with that being stated, let's see. Are there any questions or comments regarding anything that we have stated regarding our bonding program?
Islam,
Empress.
I'm just backtracking just a second to ask, did they get remedies with the form?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
And then not only did they not get remedy, but when I asked them if they even read the form, they were like, "No, what do you mean?" And you signed that? So I'm always amazed at when I see these processes out there that and people don't do the homework on reconstructing. There's not a single form that is put out by those foreigners and the subjects and the actors that does not need to be reconstructed. There's not a single form that you can just use because on the face of it is competent and good. Not one. Not one. Islam, Empress.
Yeah, because they didn't with us in mind.
No.
Islam.
No. None of that stuff was constructed in our favor. That you talking about some slave paperwork. That's some black paperwork right there. And so that's another reason why we're doing what we're doing, reconstructing everything and then getting our own bank started. Our bank is our number one priority. Aside from nationality, our economic and see if you look in the quote unquote United Nations documentation and all of that, when you're talking about sovereign nations and states, economically advantage to do what we're doing. But you all know that already. I feel like I'm quote unquote preaching to the choir. We know we need our own bank, and we know that if anyone's going to it has to be us. Oops. Empress Shatali, I think I made a mistake there. It's open. There you go. Okay. Empress Shatali, let's see. I was trying to get just one moment. Okay. So with that being said, are there any other questions, comments, anything of that nature? We would ask that everyone just do what you can with regard to our bank, getting our bank open, and then we're going to just follow the leading of the ancient ancestors within us as we have been doing with regard to proceeding, and then we'll proceed in an orderly manner.
Islam,
from this point, Islam nobility.
That's a quick question of clarity. I've been in business since '95, but it's still the basic question is, we have to get our lean our bank accounts to get off of the debtor side onto the creditor side, right? Before we can contribute to, so we can have credits to contribute.
You can, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes. That is suggested of all Moors to place a lien on at least the non-de jure and the social, because that's going to get everything else.
Okay, I've done that. I've done that. I hadn't leaned my so-called commercial bank account. I didn't know if that was something that needed to be done as well. Just lean that bank.
I would suggest that you do it, because if there's no nationality paperwork put on those accounts, they're going to be pulling. Our Grand Sheik talked about that this past Friday in terms of them saying they're going to take things out of the account.
Right.
Okay. If you have not placed a lien on the debtor and then presented the creditor with regard to bank accounts, then they're going to be taking things and you ain't going to be able to use it anyway. And they've actually already started that.
Yes. Okay. Islam. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say this. When I first did all of this paperwork and documentation on my account, I saw the changes happening, and I knew that they were not accustomed to seeing that kind of paperwork, but when they saw it, they knew what it was. And so our ancestors know what they're doing with regard to the paperwork, the liens, and all of that stuff. All of that is actually regular commerce that they have been doing on us for a long time in our sleep. They were liening things. They placed the lien automatically on certain exchanges. That's where garnishment even comes from, is that someone has a lien that they exercise at any time that they decide to exercise that lien. So we had We had to do the same thing. You know, we had to do the same thing. Put a lien on them first and lien everything moving. We had to.
Islam.
Yeah. Because they're going to be, that stuff is going to be cleared out anyway. And for those who need to know where they are feeling like they got the right to clean out the fake dead accounts, you can go back and read the quote-unquote Patriot Act. They used those in order to state that it's Dodd-Frank Act and Patriot Act, quote-unquote, that says that anything you put in the bank, quote-unquote, is a gift to them. And we state that, no, we're the bank. We're not gifting any subjects or corpses anything. And yes, Justice Morpheus said de-donus. Yeah. In other words, that just means donation in Latin, de-donus. So it's actually going to behoove all Moors to place a lien on the nom de guerre, on the social, because anything that you were trying to save, you're not going to be able to save it. You're not going to be able to save it. And they're giving you a heads up. They're giving you a heads up already, telling you. And Grand Sheik is saying it, and they're saying what Grand Sheik is saying, and we agree. You know, so a termination of corporate contracts, a lien on the nom de guerre and the social security number, and then put your sovereign security number and your fiduciary document on the public record. And we did all of that and then uploaded it to the bank account. And then we just continue to put liens out there. We just keep leaning and leaning and leaning and leaning and leaning. Leaning different ones, because all law is specific. This is work we have to do if we want to be free, if we want to stay free. And we're going to stay free. You know, I mean, can you imagine how much work the hybrids did to try and create the illusion? And they were doing that knowing that everything that they did could be wiped out in a moment by us. But they still felt that it was worth it to do all centuries of paperwork and then creating illusions and putting funny mirrors up and pretending to be someone that they're not. And we here we are 2, 3, 4, 5 years into paperwork, and some folks getting tired. And I'm like, your estate ain't worth it? Really? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And now we have the opportunity, those who can, we have the opportunity to open our bank. I mean, our heirs, just imagine if our grandparents had done this, where we would be. Just imagine that. What kind of titans of business we would be. And so we're not even mad at them because they did what they had to do, and we're doing what we have to do. As far as I'm concerned, we don't even have any other priorities. We have our work to do. So with that being said, are there any other questions? Islam.
That's me, Shasha? Okay. I wanted to share, if I may, quickly, we're talking about reconstructing that complaint form that I had received from the Southern Regional Black River Hospital. And I want to share also, I heard that they're actually making phone calls because somebody who was there, who actually is one of the conspirators and quite a creature, but anyway, is concerned that they're calling to ask questions about the day when Iris was murdered. And so anyway, so that was quite interesting to hear that they're actually, and I haven't sent my affidavit nor form, but I wanted to share, if I may, and hopefully it will work, if I can share the original, and then or maybe I give it to you or something.
You can share it, Empress.
Okay, so let me.
So that we can, so that we can see what reconstruction looks like and why it's important to do it. Simply because, just one moment, because when we reconstruct, all we're doing is taking the superior position. We become the head when we reconstruct the document.
Okay.
So let me see. Just one moment, Empress. Let me get to the. Okay, here you go.
So what do I do now? Here it is. I saw something.
You see it?
Well, hang on. What did I just do? I clicked and I saw like the click on preferences. Is that right?
Just one moment.
It showed up for a minute where I could share, but then it disappeared. Oh, there we are. So I'm going to share. Do you see something on the?
Yes.
Do you see the Ministry of
Yes,
Health?
we can see it. Yes, we can see it.
So that was.
Morris, can you see it? Okay.
They can see it?
Yes, they can. They
okay,
can.
So this was the original
Mm-hmm.
that they. Oh, hang on, I just did something crazy. Oops, and that's too big. Well, maybe not. Is that okay?
That's good. That's good, Empress.
So that was originally what they sent, which when I first saw it, I was actually freaked out because all those boxes and
yeah.
And so I looked at that, and then this is what I, at least my. So how do I now come off of this one and go to a different? I could just close it.
You can minimize this one. You don't have to close it, but just minimize it.
All right, and then
click on yours.
Oh, then I have to choose this one.
Oh, that is beautiful, Empress.
Oh, you see it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I mean, I actually even darkened up.
Yes, I noticed. That was what I was saying. It's so beautiful. I like that you did that because that's what it's supposed to look like.
I darkened them up and I gave them a little bit more hair. And, so, and I also actually, I actually also put it back in Latin because originally it was in Latin. Because it out as many one people, but e pluribus unum is the same thing.
Yes, it is.
So I don't, that's what I did. And then I left some of the boxes, but I took out the boxes where you put the names and even as I struggled a little bit, I'm going to confess, because we have appellations, but I kept hearing your explanation that this is actually the minors form. So having name on it is actually what should be on it? Or am I? Because
it means what you say it means.
Ah, okay. So it's still an appellation even though I'm using, because I'm the head.
Yes.
Okay.
You're the fiduciary.
I'm the fiduciary.
Yes.
So I basically, I took out things because as far as I'm concerned, transgender stuff is actually fiat. And so I did remove that, but and put it back to male and female. And I mean,
Empress, I think it's perfect. I'm looking at it, and I like where you put nationality, Moorish American or Moorish subject, ipso jure, or other. Beautiful. All of that is just beautiful.
So I think it was, there wasn't, I think, initially the boxes, and I just said the boxes make no sense because there's never enough space if your name is long or short. And anyway, I haven't completed it, but I made the changes with the actual
beautiful
document and started putting stuff in. Now, my document is, multiple pages long because I tried to, and I still have to go through and edit, but they wanted as much information as possible, and why you ended up there and everything else, and I'm putting in there everything that happened actually at the hospital and what happened before the hospital and why we even ended up at the hospital.
Beautiful.
And
beautiful.
And
see, Empress, this is how you deal with subject matter. Because it is a lot of subject matter, but because it's coming from your court, you're not subjecting yourself to them dealing with it the way they want to deal with it. They're actually having to answer to your court instead of you answering to them. That's what Reconstruction is all about. And we take the lead. We're the head and not the tail when we reconstruct every document, every form, everything.
And so, and then when I have, edited and
you did a beautiful job, Empress.
Thank
you.
That's
beautiful.
And that I will send this. I've leaned the custodian who sent it. I've leaned the hospital, the health authority. I've leaned, all that may be surrounding it. And and what I will go with it is an affidavit, and this affidavit would be a quo warranto mandamus restitutio, or am I? And so in it, because I've also gone down and looking at the various different, the codes, and we've got. There was a point where the custodian or 14th Amendment, whatever he is, who was referred to himself as a medical officer, but he's a custodian, former. And there was a point where literally the man was between my legs. Literally on my pubic bone. Spitting in my face. Now, no, I'm telling. Another time I will tell, read it, because, literally I was assaulted after they murdered Iris in my arms. The man was literally between my legs.
Wow.
So there are so many crimes.
Yeah.
And in the affidavit now, I will break all of that down. But I
see, this is according to the treaty because the consul is deciding.
Correct. Right.
That is how you hold accountability. You don't hold them accountable with their documents, because their documents are not going to hold them accountable.
They're biased to them, to that.
Yes.
And also putting you, denationalizing you, and putting you in subject minor status and every other.
And making you the defendant instead of you being the plaintiff and the creditor.
And right.
That's why it's so important for us to reconstruct. Empress, this is beautifully done.
Well, thank you. It took me, it took me some time, because there's the thought and the different stations or whatever, and also, the body of it, the subject matter, it is still very raw, and I haven't, I haven't really looked at it deeply since, and so this, it's been an exercise. It is an exercise, but guess what? The battle is already won.
Of course it is. You're just walking it out. You're just writing out the win. That's all you're doing.
Yes, absolutely. So there it is. That's my little piece. And then may I share another, you talked about all the work, and there is a lot of work involved in what we're doing, but it has to be done. Yeah. I actually pulled an all-nighter the other day, not intentional. I didn't intend to, and there were times when I was doing some paperwork where I actually I wasn't in tears, but when you get to that sort of exhausted, and then it's like, no, you cannot give up this, the ancestors were cheering me on. But my utilities, the electricity, so they cut you off if you don't go along with it. And I had just got to that point where I just said, you know what, I'm not doing it anymore, because I know it's forward and everything else. And so I did I had done a quo warranto, and I had done the court action and everything else. And this was back from in May, and I did the quo warranto mandamus restitutio, and I sent that with the fiduciary and my social security, sovereign security, sorry, and the prepaid, no bills due affidavit that I got from you. And I had actually edited it and added in some more stuff on there. And what else did I send? I forget now. But anyway, so I sent that maybe about 5:30 in the morning, because I knew the deadline for them cutting me off was that day. Well, and I went to sleep, and anyway, the next day I didn't wake up till after 3, and I still had power, and I still have power.
Islam.
I mean, when I went to bed, I said, this is going to work. This is, it's done. Yeah. But of course, because I've never, I haven't done that before, and there's still that little piece, and I have to keep saying. And then today the power went out for a while, and I was in that space of, did they cut me off? Is this, area wide? Or it came back, and here I am. And so I can attest to the paperwork.
Yes, it's worth it.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's worth it.
It is worth it. And I had done it for Flow the other day. I haven't had the same result, but I also see, at least from my perspective, where I didn't do something, a couple of things. And this one I did a little bit differently. And so this is how we do it. I mean, there are steps, but each one maybe is a little different, or maybe my energy at the time, as you even allude to or talk about, that wasn't quite right. But anyway, I just wanted to share that I am here, and that presentment, that court has been, that sovereign justice stands.
Yes, indeed. That's a beautiful testament, Empress. I'm thinking about that whole utilities thing, and we may need to add a bond to that after reading what you sent me, Empress. Because, see, if someone is to make a claim, they have to bond their claim. They're claiming that you owe something.
Right.
But, see, we know that this is what we know about bonds. We know that in 2013 and 2014, 2015, somewhere in there, that all of their bonds were yanked. We know that. That was the motu proprio.
Yes.
Okay. So all bonds were done away with, and they really were fraudulent bonds in the first place, because there was not full disclosure to us. And so now, Empress, sending the utilities, not the utilities, because you're the utilities, clearly, sending the subjects in the Office of Utilities a one-page bond to bond your claim with regard to utilities, and make the bond be for, 100 years of utilities.
Okay.
A bond, just a one-page bond, government bond for utilities to them.
Okay.
Stating that your claim is actually bonded and theirs is not, therefore they can't touch your utilities.
And
that would just
be it. And one of the things, and I forgot to mention, I also sent their fraudulent bill of attainder, and I marked it up with all of, the denationalization. You've got charge on here, bill on here. You've got numerals, but what's the currency and how are you doing? And I put all of those things on that particular document. Afterwards, I learned something in one of the, again, speaking of bonds, about, because it said on one of them, a charge. And they can't charge, as only a sovereign creditor can make a charge.
Yes.
I may be saying it wrong, but they're...
No, you're right.
That was something that resonated very clearly, and I think it speaks to what you just said about their bonds being fraudulent anyway, but it...
See, people charge people with crimes. So why is the word charge on there?
Right, because a bill of attainder is actually a that's your what would the term be? Your fine or your punishment. It's a penal.
It's a penal sum. Yes.
Penal sum, right.
And somebody has to bond it.
And that's it. And those bonds are. I mean, anyway, let me not go off too far. But I've been doing some research on those bonds, and there's some eye-opening.
And see, the penal bonds are a type of performance bond. So, in other words, when they say charge, they're saying do you accept the charges? That's really what they're saying when they put that word on there. Do you accept the charges? Well, if you, for you, and see, some people say, well, I'll do a conditional acceptance. No. We bond what we're stating. We bond our claim that they owe us and then send the bond. Then they got to pay, not us. But we have to reconstruct the bill.
Right.
And make the bill look exactly like, and then send the bill and the bond together.
So when I did the flow one, so that's for the phone and internet. Mm-hmm. I did all the documents. We had the Treasury.
Mm-hmm.
I did the fiduciary receipt.
Mm-hmm.
I marked up their bill of attainder. I think I didn't do all of that with this one, but the difference was I sent the quote, and I did do an affidavit, but I didn't do the summary judgment, the default judgment part. So I did, and that's the piece, the main piece I think that's missing. But I didn't do the bond, of course. I didn't do that part. But
well, Empress, as we continue to demonstrate some of the things that we were doing initially, we won't have to do because we'll have added another piece to the process that says we don't have to do the stuff that we did in the beginning.
Right.
See, with this bonding process, just in looking at what you sent me specifically, that you put in the chat, that bond piece is just an explanation of how bonds work. Just in looking at that, it looks like the paperwork can be brought down to a claim and a bond. That's it. When it comes to, or a charge and a bond. A charge or a claim, and believe it or not, a charge and a claim is the same thing.
Well, it would make sense because only the sovereign can make a charge.
And again, with Reconstruction, we're putting ourselves as the head and not the tail, the creditor and not the debtor, the lender and not the borrower.
Right.
Islam. So let me see if I get this correctly. So we issue the lien, then we do our court actions, then we do the charge, and then we bond, and then what?
Study the process that you just stated, and what each part of it that you just did, what does it do financially?
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll know what the outcome of that is going to be. Think about, and I like the way you put it in order, Empress, think about a fake court and how they do things. They do exactly those 4 things that you just named. They put a lien on their nom de guerre, and then there's a claim, and then there's a bond, and then there's a court action with that. So what happens then? They can take whatever it is that's the surety.
Yeah.
Right? So the bond is going to be another piece of documentation that needs to be included in what we do. Because then the bond says we have a proper claim. That not just a proper claim, but that the claim is already, and see, from our courts are going to rule in our favor. And we're just bonding our ruling. Remember, the courts have to have an underwriting, so to speak. Courts and court actions are always underwritten by a bond. Because, see, when you go into those fake courts, You don't ever see, quote unquote, judges handing fiat out, taking out fiat and passing it around, and prosecutors and fake attorneys and fake prosecutors passing things, fiat around. They do it by bonding. They're bonding a claim, but they want you to accept the payment for the bond. Right? Don't they? So when we see the creditor is always the one who issues the bond. It's the creditor that issues the bond. And that's why we have to start issuing bonds and 1099. Bonds and 1099.
Yes, because I remember listening to the audio that Empress, she's on here. She sent me about how they, for Price is Right, for instance, when you sign up, you pay your nominal fee. And I've known this a long time ago, but I didn't really understand the weight of it, that you win a prize, you have to pay the taxes. And just that part alone to pay the taxes means that you're a surety to the debt. You're commingled with the debt. And you can't claim anything. You can't get the prize that you quote unquote won until you pay the tax. And then in most instances, people who can't pay the tax, they become in extreme debt because of something that they were unaware of, but signed their name to a document saying that if they win, they would get the prize and be a co-debtor.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a bond, they've been bonded to that process.
Yep. So this document that's on the screen, they say it's a payment bond.
Oh, we can't see it right now. I don't.
Just let me see. Can you see it now?
Islam, yes.
Okay. So when it comes to utilities bonds, where you bond the utility, this document right here is worth studying, but please don't send it in this horrible, horrifying condition that it's in. This is a horrifying condition. The only thing I would use on this is the fact that it says payment bond. But I would even change that to creditor bond, because we're the creditors, and only creditors can issue a bond. And what we're really doing is just insuring our property. Utilities are our property. That whole utility grid is ours, but we have to bond our property. See, that's the problem that the United States Corporation Company, the dead one, had. Is people would go into those fake courts and say, let me see your bond. Where's your delegation of authority? And they never produced it. And then you could look, and some fake sheriffs would have a bond for $25,000 if they did something wrong, that you could lien the bond and then have them out of work because of misconduct. So the same thing has to be with the utilities and everything. We bond those subjects and bond the utility, bond the work. And when we bond the work, they can do the work. And I'm really, really just knowing in my knower, in the spirit, I know that that is what we're being prompted to do, is bond, is send out bonds. But we see, with the banking piece, the bonds have to be, there needs to be something going with the bonds, right? A bond is a piece of paper that says if something doesn't happen, then you have to pay. We want to show solvency because we know we're solvent because everything is ours. We have title to everything. And with our bonding process, that's what we're doing, is pointing to the fact that we're solvent. We have our own bank, we're solvent, and any documentation that we send out, we can back that documentation if we have to back the documentation. So, you know, and then holding some in reserves, like Justice Azim was stating earlier. So let's just continue looking at the bonding process and walking through it, and we'll talk about how to bond someone out of a jail. We need to know that, right? And we know how to do it. All we have to do is look at what the fakes were doing, and look at the line items, and look at the Uniform Commercial Code, and see what to put on the bonds in order to get more out. We need to know that. Because, see, that's another thing, and I'm not blaming them. Those other ones, the subjects, notify them that court has been held on the Moore, and this is the verdict, whatever the verdict is. But Moore should not have ever had to stay in a cell. They should have either been bonded out, and here's the thing about the bonding. When the bonding comes from the creditor, we're not paying anything to subjects. We're then the head of the system. We're the head of the system. And that's what our documentation and these processes are stating, that we are competently the head of all systems. So we need to keep looking at this process. And then we can put a bond on ourselves so that we can't be taken by fraud.
Islam, I was just thinking that from that perspective, and also because anytime we would put our John Hancock signature and or autograph on a document, that would instantly trigger a transaction on the fraud corporate side, notifying that a Moore has just instituted a transaction through their corporate banking system, and then they would go in and withdraw a nominal amount of fiat on our behalf, in our name, in our fictitious created entity that they've created. So in bonding ourselves, after we've already gone ahead and terminated all corporate contracts, done the lien on our straw man, and sent it to Guantanamo Bay, it seems only the next step would be to bond ourselves also, and to then, because I know another one that I had did earlier last year or 2 years ago, I don't know, is did a document stating that I had a bank, and put my bank's name on the public record. I know I've done that document, and so with that said, I need to go and put a bond with that. Then logically the next step would be, and along with those great seals that we have, I need to redo that one. But anyhow, yes, the bond would be just stating the language of the bond, and then putting said offices on notice. That's what I'm at the moment thinking out loud.
Yes, you are thinking out loud, but we love to hear it because that's important. let's keep looking at doing the study on the bond process. Let's keep doing the study. Now, we've studied the government bonding process, so we know what that means. And when we talk about uplifting all of fallen humanity, we're actually bonding ourselves to each other. That's really what we're doing, so that none of us goes down lost at sea, that we all stay on the land. You know, that's that is just one moment. Oh, okay. Apologies to the Moors who. Okay, the meeting is unlocked. Yeah, so let's keep looking at the bonding process, and we are going to. Islam Empress.
It's a little bit off topic, but I still need to secure myself. I saw someone last weekend it was, and they had a tag that had like the Moorish flag and then the other flag, I guess people refer to it as the apple tree flag. And I don't know where to get that plate, because I did see that person on the highway driving, or traveling, and so I couldn't just stop them and say, hey, where'd you get that? But they had their flag on their antenna, and then they had the license, their own license plate. So I would like to get one, but I'm not sure where to get that, because I know it's past due for me to go, pay up some tax that I don't know, that I don't think I want to pay. But at the same time, I'm trying to avoid any type of situation.
Hey, Pauline, when are you going to talk about that Land Rover again? We never hear about it. And did you just suddenly get your daughter's car fixed? Where's that Morris mechanic?
You're muted, Empress.
Okay. Empress, I was asking, can you demonstrate the tag?
Repeat, please.
Can you demonstrate the tag? So if they pull you over, do you know how to demonstrate your sovereign status by court action?
Well, the thing is, I've done certain things, but at the same time, I we don't know who you're going to run into, what state of mind that they're in. But I have trademarked a straw. I have sent the so-called sheriff, a no trespassing and a fee schedule, for any interaction that may result, of some type of encounter. And I've also, I know that some people don't look at this in a positive light, but I think it is, because they put you on a do not detain list. But I went ahead and got indexed with the world under the International World Court, and I know there they do put you on a do not detain list. So those are the things that I've done. But at the same time, like I said, you don't know who you're going to encounter, and I may be in, I may be in a situation where I have time constraint and, to go through the process. But, someone who may be gung-hoed in whatever means or ways. But those are the things that I've done so far.
Are you comfortable with
that? I am, but at the same time, I don't know who I'll be encountering.
Let me tell you who you'll be encountering. I know who you're encountering. You're going to be encountering actors pretending to be someone that they're not. You will encounter them. Know that.
Yeah, right. That I do know. So, but do you have any contact or where I could order, a tag that has the flag on it? Because I have stickers on my car with Moorish flag, but I would like another plate. So that doesn't say anything about Florida. I want another plate.
Okay, so can you see the chat?
Yes, I think I can.
Okay. I sent you something in your inbox.
Islam.
Bay20@gmail.com.
Okay, hold on. Let me take a look. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Islam. So now this is what I will say about that. Let the Spirit lead you on, and this goes for everyone who's demonstrating. We all must demonstrate at the level of our overstanding. And if the ancestors lead you to demonstrate a particular way, and maybe someone may not feel like that way is the right way, don't worry about it. Do what you're being led to do, and the ancestors will do the rest. Do what you're being led to do, because you must know within you as the sovereign what works for you. And no one can determine that but you. So with that being said, Empress, thank you for your demonstrations. However they manifest for you, I appreciate that you're demonstrating who you are. Islam. Because we all have to.
Thank you.
We all have to. So just go in it with your eyes wide open, ready to demonstrate. And I would encourage you to know the court action language. That's this language right here at the top of this. If you encounter entities. Okay. There's a little bit of noise coming from an echo actually coming from there. Are we frozen? Can everyone see or hear?
Islam, we're live streaming in good time.
Okay. Okay. Justice Sharif, that's something going on your end there then, because everyone can see and hear. With that being stated, again, Moors, I'm just grateful that we're all together. I'm grateful that we're at this point that we're at. And we're going to put the bond information up at our next meeting on Thursday. And then what we'll do is put it up, but start it on January 1st. Okay? And that way we'll be well into our fast and exactly where we need to be in terms of how that process is going to roll out. We're just going to roll it out the way we know how to roll things out and go from there. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about getting our bank open because I know how it was done. And then we're also going to do some advertising. And when I say advertising, I don't mean advertising. I mean notification, because we got to do notification with regard to the bonding process and our national bonding program. Okay. So we'll post that information at our next meeting on Thursday. With that being said, is there anything further from the Congress?
Islam, Empress, if I could just add one thing. 432 hertz is a good thing to in terms of healing during that particular period of fasting. It's a good thing to add because we're through sound persons, right? So we're through sound. So sound has a lot to do with our health.
Yes.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
But during Thanksgiving, this is my personal thing. If I could get someone at the government to give me some videos for the fiduciary money presentment, I'd appreciate it.
So they're on the public record. If someone wants to go out and assist, the two of you can work together on that. If anyone wants to, what territory are you at, Nobility?
Ancient Memphis, Tennessee Republic.
Tennessee territory. Okay. If there are any more, if you want to put your email in the chat, then the Moors can pull it and assist you with the fiduciary presentment. Islam. If there's nothing further from this sovereign, ancient, worthy Congress, we will adjourn here and come back on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Islam.